And we oftentimes get this belief that we're broken or we're damaged or there's something wrong with us. And that's not the case. What happens is we go through things and we adapt to them in the only ways that are available to us. And we are so much more than the things that happen to us.
Mhm.
And we can learn how to do things differently. And all that wisdom that knows how to do it, it's inside of each and every one of us. All that we need to do is recover it. So when I asked you earlier, what are you recovering? You told me, I'm recovering my authentic self.
This is the More Than Capable podcast. Life applies pressure in predictable places, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. More Than Capable exists for those who choose to prepare. No hacks, no shortcuts, no posturing. Just discipline, faith, and practices that help you stand when life presses down. Welcome. I am glad you are here. Welcome to the podcast. My guest today, I'm going to turn it over, is an incredibly patient and understanding human being. We had this podcast scheduled in, I think, late spring, and we had to reschedule, and then we hit a point for me where it was just like, I have too much on my plate with the impending birth of our third child, and we said, let's do this later. And it is genuinely a conversation I've thought about since then and been really looking forward to. So again, Julian, welcome to the podcast. I'm going to just turn this over to you. I would be very interested to hear about your own journey. What is it that you do, and how is it that you found yourself doing the work and the service that you do today?
Mhm. Well, Kyle, thanks for having me. And first of all, congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
birth of your new child. Yeah, there's no problem with rescheduling for that. I'm happy you were taking
Yeah,
time to you and your family. So
appreciate it.
congrats. hmm Yeah, in terms of what I do, essentially I help people heal trauma in all of its shapes and forms. I don't heal it for them. I don't do anything for them other than help them find the wisdom, the knowledge, all the information that knows how to heal and be whole that lives inside of each and every one of us. I just help them find it. And that's what I do. And I found that by doing it myself.
Really, what's the story? What you're willing to share about your own journey in kind of either revisiting or dealing with the trauma that you experienced?
hmm Yeah, so I grew up from very young parents, and I guess that's relative. My dad was 19, my mom was 20,
Hmm.
and my mom was a stripper, and my dad was a Latino in a very, very racist neighborhood.
Mm.
So when I came around, and needless to say, it was a one-time deal. When I came around, I wasn't wanted, to say the least, more like hated. I was
Mm.
always seen on my dad's side of the family as the bastard son of a stripper, and on my mom's side, I was always seen as this brown thing that doesn't
Mm.
fit or welcome here. So as I grew up, each parent hating me, I mean, I had a lot of pain and I internalized a lot of beliefs. That was the environment that I developed in, and this pain got to be so intense that by the time I was probably, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, I was heavily suicidal.
Mm.
And, you adapt to that in the ways that are available. And so this pain just kept increasing and increasing throughout my life. And when I was in my early 20s, I was getting in such intense situations that I was either going to end up in jail, which was very real for people of my ethnicity and my situation. And it was knocking on my door constantly,
Mm.
or I was going to end up dead, which was also a very common occurrence from
Mhm.
overdose or alcohol or all of the above. And so I snapped at one point in my early 20s. I said, that's enough. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to turn and face this. I'm going to take control, because I was realizing that I was becoming some hybrid of my parents and the people that had been in my life. And I didn't want that. I wanted to find my own life. And so those are the things that led me to it. And then after that, it was just a lot of training, a lot of persistence, a lot of patience, and teaching myself how to forge a new way of living.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. You had mentioned that at 11 or 12, you kind of felt like the idea or concept of suicide ending it all had become very, very present. As you were growing up before that, in the years before that, and this might be hard to answer reflecting back, but were you very aware of your situation in the moment, or was it just the only life that you knew growing up, and so it didn't really seem out of the norm until you hit like a breaking point?
Mhm. Yeah, so when we're growing up, as children, our worldviews are very small and limited. That's something
Hmm.
that's developing really quickly. So for me, I remember the first time that I went over a friend's house, and I was probably right around that age, maybe 12, maybe 13. And my friend, who was fairly well off, white family, they had a lot of things that I really looked up to that I had never really seen before.
Hmm.
And we were in the car, we were going to see Shrek, and so that dates things a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah.
And he tells his mom, explicitly, to shut up, with a lot of threats and a lot of vulgar language, which
Hmm.
was not uncommon from where I was at. But and I kind of like cowered in the corner of the car, and his parents were in the front seat, we were in the back, and they looked at me and they go, "Oh, Julian, we don't hit our kids here."
Oh man.
And I thought to myself, I said, "What? Huh? What do you mean you don't hit your kids?" I mean, I'm not pushing here, but
Hmm.
that one really stood out to me, where that was the first time I had really seen, like, whoa, this isn't exactly normal.
Yeah.
And at an early age, I bounced between my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family. They played this game of child hot potato with me. And
Hmm.
so I always had an idea, because they would talk very negatively about each other constantly. And
Hmm.
again, I mentioned the biracial dynamic there. They were always talking about the other race, the other family, the other area. So I had an idea that different areas, different families were, they had different constructs, but the idea of the abuse was something that was consistent through all of it. So it was very challenging to understand that my situation was not healthy. It was not
Yeah.
ideal. It was just normal. But around that time is where I started to realize, like, things can be different. Maybe things should be different.
Yeah. And so that you had mentioned, in your early 20s, it's like, and I have a very similar experience. I'm going to kind of put it in my own words. I had felt like at the end of my drinking, the experiment I felt like I had a huge list of experiments that I had attempted to eradicate what I saw as the problem. Um, and I felt like I could look at that list and things were crossed out. And similar to what you said, I was getting to the end of that list and it felt like one of the only options left was death. And I say it time again, like I got so lucky because I had given in to that as the last option. And I'm still here. But how did you find the like courage to go, even though I see that and that I can feel that, I'm going to seek and find another way?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know if it was so much of courage. Maybe it was. I had been on my own since I was really young.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I never had a safe place. Never.
Hmm.
So even as a very, very young kid, I remember having to, find sheds in the trailer park to sleep in. I was always looking for a place that I could go when things got really bad at home. So I became a doer. I was always the person who could just take initiative and do things. And maybe that's
Hmm.
courage, or maybe that's just the adapting to very, very difficult circumstances. But you mentioned a very common dynamic that happens when we go through trauma. So, when we're children and we're making sense of this lack of safety, this dangerous thing, and it can look like so many different things. It could be our caregivers are not present emotionally. They could be present physically.
Hmm.
They could be very loving parents. They could be trying their best. And maybe they're just getting modern medical advice that says when your baby cries or when your kid cries, don't hold them. Let them
Hmm.
cry it out. Let them learn to self-soothe. And as a baby, you're being overwhelmed. As a child, you're being overwhelmed with these emotions and you don't
Hmm.
know how to regulate them. And the only way you can regulate them is through the contact with your parents. So there's a threat to your survival. So it could be unintentional, or it could be, of course, you have very abusive parents. So it can swing in all the different directions. There's only a couple ways that we can make sense of this. We could say, my parents, my caregivers, my teachers, my family, whoever, they're just not up to the job. They're not qualified to be parents. They're not able to care for me in the ways that I need them. In other words, I'm not safe and I
Hmm.
am just SOL. Well, there's not a lot of hope. There's not a lot of wiggle room or areas where we can enact choice and adapt to this hopeless situation. We're just screwed.
Yeah.
So we develop another way of thinking about the situation, and this develops unconsciously and very early in life. And this looks something like, well, my caregivers, my parents, whoever, they're older. They have lived in this world for a lot longer than me. They have relationships. They are able to navigate and survive in this world. So something's going right for them. They connect with each other. The problem must be I am the problem. I'm not worthy of being cared for. I'm not deserving of it. And if I could be good enough, if I could do the things that would get me the care, that would get me the comfort, that would get me the connection, that would get me the safety, then I will be loved. Then I will get all of those as long as I can do the things.
Hmm.
So this right here is the worldview that almost everybody adapts. I adapted it, and from what you just told me, you adapted it too.
Hmm.
So later in life, when we have all of this pain and we create this list of all of these things that we want to eradicate, what we're doing is we're saying, who I am is not good enough. And if I could get rid of all of these things, then I will be good enough. But all those things that we're trying to get rid of, that's who we are. And we
Yes.
learned somewhere in our life that that wasn't good enough. So
Hmm.
you can see we're in a conflict with ourselves. And
Yeah.
this is the source of the pain right here. As long as we're trying to get rid of those parts of ourselves, we're always going to be in that pain. So
Right.
really learning how to identify this pattern and work with it in a different way, or to meet our needs in a more constructive way, that's the key.
So I want to jump into the work that you do and really
Mhm.
get an understanding of the process, because what is it that is unique or different versus the other alternatives that are available to to the vast majority of the people that are going to listen to this podcast, um, with the tools and the process that you lead people through, and please inject your own story and journey in here as well. um, why is it so much seemingly so much more powerful to be able to address that situation that you just laid out and allow people to understand how to start moving forward in a more beneficial manner to themselves?
Yeah, I could think of a few reasons why. I mean, first of all, when I work with somebody, the vast majority of the time, the trauma that they went through, while the degrees, right, the details of the trauma that they went through might differ, the experience itself is very similar to what I went through.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like the Buddha said, it's because you suffer and it's because I suffer that we can understand one another. So when I'm working with somebody and they can see themselves inside of me and I can see myself inside of them, we have a very unique foundation in which we can do this work.
Hmm.
And that in itself is very, very powerful. The vast majority of my clients say, usually very quickly, you get it. I can
Yeah.
see you understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And that shared experience is crucial. The other thing is I focus extensively on really being present with people,
Hmm.
really trying to see where they're at, not judging or evaluating or criticizing or trying to diagnose it, but just really being present and
Hmm.
listening and connecting with them. And this right here is the foundation for therapy and healing to occur.
Hmm.
Most therapists don't have either of those. The
Yeah.
overwhelming majority of people in healthcare don't have that. And they're using the healthcare as an adaptation or as an escape to get away from their own pain.
Yeah.
So those two things I think are very important in terms of how I can work with people.
Yeah. And if I can just overlay my own experience on this that I think really drives the point home is I decided early that I mean I'm focused on my own healing first, especially in the early days of my recovery from alcoholism. But there is a component of recovery. It's the 12th step in the 12th step program where you look to serve others. And the way that I look at approaching serving others, because it is how I felt the gift was given to me, um, is a few things. One is be willing to go first and do, and what I mean by that is do exactly what you just did, where um, you share your own struggles, your learnings, your progress, and your journey that you went through. And then second, and probably most important, is especially now that I'm kind of finding myself in longer term recovery and engaging with people who might be early on, shut up and listen and just let them, after you have shared, after you have given your experience, just let them start stepping into the process if they are willing. And one thing that I want to highlight about this power of the shared experience is between our two stories. And what you were saying about that feeling that what you have is not good enough and that you have to basically get rid of it to one day be worthy. I had that, and I had that in a extremely different lead in to it. If you look at our stories, they're wildly different. I had incredible parents, and I feel so lucky about that. And honestly, it's one of the reasons that I was driven mad when I knew I was struggling with alcoholism, because I reflected back on my life and my upbringing, and it's like I have it so well. Why am I so pathetic that I'm struggling right now when I can see that I had very, very loving parents? Like, yes, they pushed me, they made me uncomfortable at the right times, and they gave me that like ability to explore at the right bounds. Like they were really present and they were really intentional with their parenting. Yet I'm struggling. And that feeling of needing to think you need to like eradicate parts of you and get somewhere else to be quote unquote better. um this is like a really embarrassing example, especially compared to yours and the story you laid out. But I had a I had a moment, but it just shows the power of this shared experience. I had a moment, growing up, baseball was like my love. I truly just adored the summer months. I loved being on the diamond. I loved the game. I loved everything about it. And I had really the last 2 to 3 years of high school put everything behind um, baseball and just like really working at it. And my senior year, I started getting benched, and I felt I was getting benched for someone who was not up to snuff and it didn't make sense. And I was getting pissed and I was getting really angry. And finally, the coach sat down and admitted to me that basically we're playing the Booster Suns president over you because this season's a wash. We don't really care about our wins losses. We're just going to do it. And in that moment, and he explained to me, he goes, listen, this is a life lesson. Someday you're going to go in for a job interview. You're going to nail the interview. You're going to have the perfect experience. You're going to be the right person for the job. But the boss's nephew also interviewed, and you're not going to get it. So you need to, this is a really good life lesson. In that very moment, I had the thought, screw you. I'm going to be so good that no one can deny me. And that drove me. That literally drove me for 15 more years. And it led to my insanity. It led to my discontent, and more of life piled on, right? And it just made that negative thought pattern sink further and further towards like darkness and unworthiness, and it really, really embedded itself within me. And that's like, it's a pathetic example. But at the same time, like, it impacted me exactly how you are detailing you were impacted in your life. And when it comes down to it, it's like, I learned this in rehab quite early. It's like, you can't compare your own journey to anyone else. Like, you just have to focus on you and not look at someone else and go, they had it harder than me. Why am I struggling and they're doing okay? Just let that's part of letting things go and just really coming in and reflecting on where you're at and how to take the next step forward in a beneficial manner.
Yeah. Yeah. Comparing suffering is a dangerous game.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, yes, understand that there is suffering in the world. There are things that you can learn from other people, but you have to be careful about those comparisons, because it's not going to do you well at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The comparisons, yeah. And Kyle, there's other dynamics that are happening here too. Heavy judgment.
Yeah.
Heavy evaluation. Heavy criticism. This word pathetic came up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pathetic, right? So this explains a deep core belief,
Yes,
of that you have about yourself that's coming up
yes,
there. And whether or not the suffering that you and I went through is the same, the outcome is identical,
exactly.
right?
Can we step back? Because I'll be honest, it's something I've questioned and struggled with even after entering into recovery. Could you give, based on your experience and
Mm-hmm.
guidance that you have provided others, like, how do you define trauma?
Mm-hmm. Trauma is not about the thing that happens to you. So the trauma is suppress your emotions. It's not safe. The traumatic part of it is how you adapt afterwards. You learn to
Mm-hmm.
suppress your emotions. You learn to suppress your expression. You suppress who you are. So later in life, you're trying to get rid of all these parts of who you are. That's what trauma is right there. So
Mm-hmm.
if you get hit in the head, that's the trauma, right? The concussion is what becomes traumatic, the thing that happens inside of you as a result of what happens. So later in life, we have all these patterns and these dynamics, like not knowing what to do with emotions. Emotions are very big and scary and overwhelming, and they just come bursting out the seams because we've spent our whole lifetime suppressing them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trauma right there, is we adapted to the thing that happened by suppressing our emotions. So now what we want to do is we want to learn how to identify and recognize emotions. We want to learn how to accept when they're here rather than fighting them. We want to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to express them in healthy, constructive ways. We
Mm-hmm.
want to learn how to process and comfort and soothe these emotions. So when we get injured, and I'm sure as an athlete, you've probably had injuries in your life. When you get injured, you become very stiff and rigid and very painful or very numb, and you
Mm-hmm.
lose your range of motion or mobility. And with proper healing, you can stretch and exercise those areas, and you can regain the feeling. The thing that was so sensitive and painful can get less painful. You can regain your range of motion. That's what we do with the trauma, is we start to heal it just like an injury. It's an emotional, psychological injury. And where we become very limited and constricted to that one adaptation, we can begin to exercise and stretch it and get more mobile and have a larger range of motion so we can respond to the things that are happening in
Hmm.
different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say largely the spot that I've come to, I agree with that definition. The reason I had um such a hard time talking about trauma is I saw it used as a crutch in a lot of ways, and I saw myself potentially using it as a crutch where it was sort of, and I'm going to say this knowing that a lot of what you said dismisses it, but it would sort of be the idea that, well, I was traumatized by like either a specific event or by some internal thought pattern that got embedded into me, and that's it. It was just sort of a maybe even not even a recognition, but like something traumatic happened to me in the past. And I saw, and it pains me because like I saw people hold back their recovery because they kept going to this and just being like, well, I'm traumatized, I'm traumatized.
Mhm.
Or it's like there was sort of a search, or there was this idea that it's like, and I think this is a lot more in line with my story, is like I'm seeing, again, comparing, I'm seeing trauma in other people's lives, and I'm learning early in recovery that it's like, trauma is a big input into alcoholism. And so I did this a little bit, but I did kind of step away, but I saw people really, really digging and searching for the trauma. And one of the things that I think helped me is early in my rehab experience, early in my recovery, I stopped obsessing over trying to understand why. And my first step was really just accepting it. And then what can I do to start looking back and start looking at those things? But it's like I was trying to pull this idea of, well, there's got to be something that's so traumatic forward. And really what I had to do was let go. And then over time, as I did the work and did the reflection, some of those pieces did start coming back and start connecting. And so like, I feel like now if you ask me, why is it that you are an alcoholic? I'm like, well, I don't think it matters. But if you want this story, like I feel pretty good telling you about it. I feel pretty confident telling you about it, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It can be used as a crutch, but that's
Hmm.
not the goal of what we're doing here.
Hmm.
What we're doing is we're trying to really understand this pattern so we can recognize it and identify it. And then we can enact choice, agency,
Hmm.
responsibility,
Hmm.
accountability for the patterns that we have inside of us. So
Hmm.
I can say, I went through something that was traumatic and I adapted to it in the only ways that were available to me. That pattern is inside of me. And every time that that pattern gets activated, I need to attend to it rather than saying that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So now I can enact some choice and take some accountability for it. And then I can start to liberate myself from those old patterns.
Hmm.
That's the goal of what we're doing here.
Yeah. It's, and it is so powerful. And the thing that I tell people is it takes practice because it's very uncomfortable to start. You had mentioned at one point the discovering the ability to first and foremost identify emotions, and that was a huge gap that I had. And when
Hmm.
I was in rehab, they gave us I know you've seen it, like the emotional wheel, and it just
Sure.
had all of the different emotions
Hmm.
that you could get more and more granular with. I walked around with that because I realized if you would have asked me to name emotions prior to rehab, it was like angry, sad, happy. And that was about the extent of my vocabulary. And so when
Well,
it
that's
came,
fantastic.
yeah, and when it came to having those
You got
emotional,
half of it right there.
right, yeah, I was part way, yeah, um,
Yeah.
but no, and just one thing I'm curious about. So with a kind of going higher level back to the process that you bring people through, like my understanding is you do a lot of pre-work, kind of like setting the table for a plant medicine experience, and so then there's the actual experience, and then there's a lot of post work. And I think this is like a cyclical process that happens Could you, if there's someone that you're working with for the first time and they really, you can sense they really have that discomfort around diving in and like looking at, you know,
Mhm.
some of these aspects, like what is it about some of the pre-work that sets someone up for that experience to like really open up and and have the most benefit out of the whole process?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, here, let me ask you, and you can always, edit this out
Yeah.
if we're getting too far into what you want to talk about is when we were talking about your examples there, was that comfortable?
No, even right now, it's
Yeah,
not.
of
Yeah.
course. Now, I think that's very important to identify is because the vast majority of people, when we start looking at these areas of pain, just like you identified earlier, is we don't know what to do with pain.
Mm-hmm.
So we try our best to avoid it. We
Mm-hmm.
try our best to stuff it down. And that's where tools like alcohol come in later on as they help
Yeah.
us to avoid them. And if I were to ask you, what did the alcohol do for you? What would you say?
Uh, Alcohol was my solution. It relieved me, even if it was
Relief.
for 4 seconds. It was
Yep.
a relief.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. So when we learn to suppress our emotions, we have to do it through various means. And when
Mm-hmm.
those means of suppressing them don't work anymore, we need tools to help us suppress them. And you just said it exactly. The alcohol helps me suppress my emotions. It gives
Mm-hmm.
me relief from the pain. So when we start taking the inventory, which is what we started doing earlier, that's the
Yep.
first step, is it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And there are numerous defense mechanisms that kick in that will stop us from doing that. They will try to protect us. They will say, whatever we're getting into here is not good, and I need to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to help people see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be challenging. We're going into the pain rather than running away from it,
Yeah.
which is what the defense mechanisms are, trying to get away from it. I do that with just talking with people.
Mm-hmm.
This is so important because if you're going to have a psychedelic experience, the first thing that is going to come up for you, almost guaranteed, or maybe not the first thing, but somewhere throughout the experience, you can guarantee that pain is going to make an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a crucial part of your experience. Now, if it's a big, overwhelming, scary monster that you want to run away from, you're going to spend all of that time trying to run away from it. So, what's really important is that we start to acknowledge, hey, this is really uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an indication of that's an area that I need to spend time with. And my job is to help us see the defenses
Yeah.
and to soften them a little bit and to begin to cultivate the safety. See, we stopped when we were working on your example, we stopped just a step or two prematurely. The
Mm-hmm.
next thing that we would really look at is this discomfort that's here. What does it really need to feel safe? When
Mm-hmm.
this originated early in your life, what were the things that you really needed?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're almost always exactly the same because they're fundamental human needs.
Yeah.
Almost every single person has some variation of the exact same thing. And so then what we want to do is every time that that gets activated, that discomfort, we want to try to identify those unmet needs and start to meet them in very constructive ways. In other words, we become the person that we needed to meet those needs when we didn't have it.
Yeah.
If we can start to do that, that's the practice right there,
Mm-hmm.
is we start to recognize the patterns of suppressing the pain, suppressing the emotions, avoiding it, trying to get away from it. And instead of running away from it, we turn into it and
Mm-hmm.
we say, okay, it's here. It's here for me to work with. Now I'm going to engage with it. I'm going to build a relationship with it. Well, what does it need from me? Oh, well, it needs me to meet specific needs in very specific ways. Okay, now I'm going to try and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the practice. And if we can build that up, when you go into a psychedelic experience, you use the psychedelic experience as a tool to go much deeper with that practice. So
Yeah.
you use that and say, I'm not going to try to avoid this pain. I'm not going to try and run away from it. I'm going to use this as a way to go directly for it.
Yeah.
I know there's pain in me. It lives right here. It develops here in my life. It affects me in these ways. It needs these things. I might not know how to do those things just yet. So I'm going to use this experience as a way to go in there and figure out how to do it. And that's what I help people with.
And that output informs how you work with your client in the after.
Yeah, more or less. Right
Yeah.
now I'm not doing the full facilitated experiences with
Hmm.
people. What I'm doing is um, working for the same amount of time. So like 8 weeks is about the average. Some
Hmm.
people a little less, some people a little bit more. 8 weeks, and we do sessions where we do very similar to what you and I were doing.
Yeah.
And if they want, they can microdose. So I
Hmm.
help them get on a regiment and figure out where their sweet spot for the dosing is, where they take a small amount, sub-perceptual, so you don't have the full experience, but it kind of compounds over time. And the characteristics of the experience of it, bringing things to your awareness,
Hmm.
specifically those patterns and the
Yeah.
pain that's unprocessed, and also helping you write new patterns, because what it does is it softens those defenses and that conditioned way of thinking. It kind of sidesteps that a little bit and introduces new ways of thinking. So when we combine a microdose that does those things, it brings things to your awareness, it helps you soften your defenses in conjunction with the therapy that we're doing, is you can get just as far, if not farther, much quicker than what we were doing with the facilitations.
Yeah. No, I have the more I've been in this space of just recovery, me being the recovered alcoholic, but really engaging with people, that the potential of this process as a healing tool is just immense. And I think it's foolish to discard or avoid. And myself never having a psychedelic experience, and specifically with the intent of healing. Um, One question that I've always had is, does it help, or do your clients say it helps to alleviate the discomfort so that they can a little more objectively view, say, like a certain situation or thought pattern? Or is that discomfort still there, but that impulse to react gets stripped away a little bit so that you can actually spend time in that discomfort assessing the situation?
Yeah, you're close. A little bit of both of those.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is that discomfort, like I was saying earlier, given the analogy of it being a very big, scary monster that we want to run away from,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to become a trusted friend.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, in many cases, what it starts to become is the childhood version of ourselves that's still carrying around all that pain.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can really start to build a relationship like that, we really cultivate and develop this practice of constantly going and looking for that pain, that discomfort that's there, and
Mm-hmm.
continuously comforting it and soothing it. So you mentioned earlier a very big point of pain that you still experience to this day, and you don't want to just let it go. You don't want to just get past it. Okay, so what do we do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we go into that pain and we comfort it and we soothe it. And this is a practice that we learn how to do. And the way, knowing how to do it is already inside of you. I just got to help you recover it.
Yeah.
And so we continuously practice it. And the more that we do that, the less overwhelming, the less intense this becomes. And I'll tell you, 99% of the time when I'm working with somebody and we do the actual practice. So when we and I were working on it earlier, we were identifying the patterns. We were
Mm-hmm.
identifying the pain. That's the most difficult part
Mm-hmm.
right there. I said the next step that we would do is we would ask, well, what does this pain really need from you? And you would
Mm-hmm.
identify those needs. Then the next step is we're going to do that right now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to help you do it. And like clockwork, people get relief like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to make it go away. Making it go away is not the objective, right? Making it go away is very similar to you're going to get a timeout. You're not acceptable. I don't want you. You need to get out of here. I don't like you the way you are. It's conditional. You have to change in order for me. No, we don't do that anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to go and face this pain, and we're going to and we're going to try and be with it. And we're going to try and listen to it. And we're going to try and be present with it and understand why it's here. And then we're going to try to comfort it. And we're going to try to accept it. And when we do that, the intensity of that pain almost always resolves right there on the spot. And so then it
Yeah.
becomes a practice of constantly doing that every chance you get.
Yes. Well, and I think that's important too, because it's not like you face it once, and even if you face it honestly, and really work through it, it's going to come back up. And I think what you said, to me, speaks towards my experience of like, it's about the reps, and it's about understanding your own process of dealing with it when that hits. And I can talk about this with regards to the emotions that hit, thinking about not having our daughter here. And obviously for,
You're feeling it right now.
yeah, I am. And the way it strikes now is, I don't mean strikes in a bad way. The way that it hits me right now is like a really sharp, almost like instantaneous, whoa, I'm caught a little off guard. I'm not I'm surprised by it. And
Yeah.
now it's just like I've become very okay with, like, it makes a lot of sense why this is hard for me. There are things that are totally unexpected that bring forward my memory of her and some of the longing that I feel, and it's very natural. And so just being able to, and I have found
Let
a
me
weird,
encourage you to try something really quick,
yeah,
Kyle, because I can see the emotion on you right now.
yeah.
What do you usually do with this emotion?
I actually let it play out because it helps make me feel connected with her.
Okay, terrific. Do you want to try something really fast just for a
Yeah,
minute or two?
let's go for it.
Okay.
I love this. Yeah.
Where do you feel it in your body?
Right in my chest.
What does it feel like?
These days it is like, it's just kind of like a really fast, instant slug in the chest.
Okay. So it feels like getting hit, literally. When you said the
Yep.
hit earlier, you weren't
Yes.
kidding.
Yes.
Okay. What happens with your breathing and your heart rate?
There's usually like a very heavy exhale out, is kind of like, again, truly getting hit.
Yeah,
And
getting the
sort
wind
of,
knocked out of you.
yes. Yeah. And it's, then this sounds really weird. I actually kind of lose, track of, I couldn't tell you how my breathing sort of plays out, but like, I
Mhm.
feel it then cascade down. And honestly,
Okay. It
at this
becomes
point,
overwhelming.
yeah, but in a manner that feels, again, I'm going to use the term good. It feels good with what I get in terms of connecting with her. Like when I have
Mhm.
tears stream down me, it feels like a relief. And it's visual, it's physical, right? It's like this is me allowing that to work to work itself through, to allow me to
Okay.
feel that connection with her.
Okay. Very good. So something else that happens that I'll just notice is your mind gets very busy too.
Yes, yes.
And that is the first form of repressing or suppressing the emotion that's available to us as
Hmm.
children is we go away mentally.
Yeah.
That's a defense mechanism. So let's be aware of that.
Hmm.
Okay. So what I'm going to invite you to do here is just take a moment and don't worry about talking to me. Don't worry about the camera. I want you to put your attention on that feeling in your chest. And you can take a couple nice breaths. You can close your eyes and just put your attention on it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to get rid of it. All I want you to do is try to pay attention to it and just listen to it. Maybe even ask it a question of, what does it want? What does it need from you? When it comes up and it hits you like that and it's shocking, what does this really want?
Yeah. So,
And it's okay. It's okay. Stay with it. Yeah. Yeah. See,
I can,
the mind
I
is
know.
coming back in right now.
Yep. Yep.
So you're allowed to have the emotion, Kyle. It's here. And
Hmm.
that's a part of being human. And everybody who's listening to this right now is probably dealing with something very similar in some regard of having a big emotion and not knowing what to do with it. So it's
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'll encourage you if you can, and if not, it's okay. Just stay with it for a moment. And notice when it gets overwhelming, your mind gets very busy and you want to disconnect from it.
Hmm.
So let's just stay with it. And if it's a little kid, maybe it's a little kid version of you. Maybe this feeling goes all the way back to early in your life. Or maybe it's a memory of your daughter. Let's try to spend some time with it. Let's try to connect with it, be with it, and accept that it's here. And maybe offer some comfort to it. And all that tension, let's just try to be soft with it. We don't have to get rid of it. We don't have to change it. It doesn't need to go away. We don't need to fix it. There's nothing to fix here. This is a part of you. Can we embrace it? Yeah, what's happening?
I feel strength. And from, my chest, I felt that, point like dissipate, down all throughout my body in the form of strength. And the I've never actually felt this before when it happened, but giving it space, like I felt it down. I felt it down into my fingers, and it's like I could feel her hand on mine, because really that is the she was sick when she was born, and so we couldn't hold her much, but we could hold her hand. And there's like a very specific spot that she would grip onto. And so, feeling that energy and the strength in my fingers, it's like all of a sudden I felt her hand on mine. And that, as hard as those moments were, when we were in the hospital and sitting there, it was touching her and holding her and having her hold us back as she could, is such a source of comfort. And I mentioned the longing that exists. And truly just there's this desire to express and show earthly love to her that we can't. But that that experience, and just, I think what I was trying to say earlier, that I never took the time to really feel, was when I get hit with those emotions, you know, that's what leads me back to that connection with her.
Mhm. So that's the reason why it keeps coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And as you see here, if you pay attention to it, look at all the things that are right underneath the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Connection. You said the intensity dissipates. There's so many things that are happening here. Now, learning how to really be with this emotion and process it, which is what you're doing right now, and expressing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? These are new patterns that you didn't get.
Yes.
And so this is how you really do service, not just to yourself, but to your children as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you're learning something that your parents didn't get either. Oh,
Yeah. We've
so I'm saying here, Kyle,
mm-hmm.
it's good work
Thank you.
because
Yeah.
you're doing very important things, and this is not easy.
No.
To where all this emotion here, tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, in the past, you might have gone to alcohol to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, look at what you're doing right now,
Yeah.
is you're able to be with it.
Right.
You're able to not just be with it, but you're showing other people that you can be with it.
Yeah.
How incredible.
Yeah. It really is. And this is the part that truly feels like a miracle with recovery, because I know where I would have gone before. Um,
You know, the word recover means to find something that you've lost.
yes.
What are you finding?
I mean, I'm finding my joy again. I'm finding my authentic self, like
Mhm.
the childish love of life is is back. In a way that I never anticipated. Like courage has come back into my life, and it's um it's something that has been so incredible that just I don't know. I not only want to continue pursuing it for myself, but it's been so unbelievable. I want it for others who I know are struggling like I did.
Mhm. You mentioned, you know, seeing yourself in your son.
Hmm.
So learning how to do this right now is also learning how to do it for him.
Yes. Yeah.
And in this sense, your daughter is still with you
Oh yeah.
and she's teaching you quite a bit of things.
Yeah, she is.
This is how you honor her presence is by being with her.
Hmm.
It's a great mystery of what happens in this world in terms of life and death.
Hmm.
But I can say for certain that I've had experiences, you've had this experience, and I've known numerous people who have had this experience as well, that you can really connect with whatever it is of somebody passing after they've passed, just like
Hmm.
you just did. The key to that is to really be present with that feeling. So you get that punching feeling, it's grabbing your attention, it's saying,
Yeah.
pay attention to me, I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. No, and it is truly it's a welcome experience. Like that was hard doing that. And the you know, the times that it really does hit us these days, it is uncomfortable. Like I think that's what it comes down to. It's not ever about eradicating the discomfort. It's just about learning how to sit in it. And
Yeah.
you know, it's like I think I learned more here today in this last hour here, because I had looked at these moments before and been like, yeah, you know, I'm sitting through it really really well, and I'm allowing myself to be present, and I'm really trying to feel that connection with our daughter. But as you pointed out, like my mind goes. And
Mhm.
I try to explain. I mean, that was my problem with alcoholism too, in part, is I wanted a why. I wanted to know why. I wanted to solve this problem. I'm an
Mhm.
engineer. And so there's a part of this where it's like, well, I see myself as a problem solver. I want everything to have an explanation
Mhm.
or a reason. And so I do jump to that. I do jump to spinning the mind up. But this was beautiful.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, I know. I
Mhm.
know.
And, and it's a fantastic asset to have
Yes.
when used intentionally.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a defense mechanism, an adaptation that we developed through going through pain at a time where we didn't have any way to go through it.
Yeah.
We both adapted to the pain of our lives in very similar ways because
Mm-hmm.
that's all that was available. And that can absolutely dominate our lives, or it can become a fantastic asset, a skill, a tool that we use for other means, like
Mm-hmm.
really being present with these emotions that are here
Mm-hmm.
right now. How are you feeling right now, Kyle?
Light, really
Light as in like bright or as in
bright.
heaviness?
No, bright. Like truly it I don't know. I explain to people early, and I know my story is kind of a little bit of an outlier because I found recovery and started working on that path less than 90 days before we found out about our daughter's health concerns, and less than or a little over 7 months after we lost her. And so like there was an intensity of like emotion that hit,
Mhm.
but even so, I recognized that when I started working in on the path of recovery, there were unexpected emotional upswells. But then I stopped, and it's like, well, I have a dozen years where I went to alcohol as the solution. And so
Mhm.
I just thought of it as like this dam where there is so much water built up, and recovery was taking that dam apart and understanding that like there's going to be a big rush of water that is going to continue down for quite a lot of time. And so like really unexpected things would and not send me into an emotional state where I cried necessarily, but even the other direction where I was like so exuberant and overjoyed. And
Mhm.
that situation emotionally is just as dangerous as some of the negative thought
Yeah.
patterns. And so just being forgiving of myself and letting those emotions kind of work through and level out. And I think it's been a longer run for me on this front because of the experience that we had with losing Lucy. And that's a rush of water if you want to
Mhm.
stay on this analogy. And so just
Yeah.
allowing it to work through your work through yourself. And um
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I love what happened there. Like that was such a different experience.
Yeah. And you got there in a matter of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
That's always available to you. It's
Right,
right there,
right. Yeah, it's
right?
incredible.
And to use this reservoir analogy, the dam, yeah, at a very early age, that dam was built as an adaptation
Hmm.
because you didn't know what to do with your emotions.
Right.
And so you've got a whole lifetime of emotions that are still stored up inside of you.
Hmm.
And the practice here is to constantly go into that reservoir and slowly let them come out in
Hmm.
very structured ways.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you just did.
Yeah. Well,
And you see right there, you get relief right away.
oh, it's incredible. Yeah. And I can't thank you enough. I also love the fact that this conversation just went, I didn't necessarily know what to expect, but this was This was such a beautiful experience. So thank you very, very much
Yeah.
for that. It was well worth the wait.
Yeah, Kyle, thank you. I couldn't have done it without you, of course, and thank you for being willing to go into those spaces. You know, that again,
Absolutely.
that's a testament of the effort that you've been putting into
Hmm.
healing these patterns that you've been handed.
Yeah.
Um, it's not easy, you know, it's uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
When you're learning something new, when you're learning how to field ground balls, or when you're learning how to throw a certain way, it can be really uncomfortable. When
Hmm.
you're exercising and stretching, it's uncomfortable. And it leads to greater abilities and a larger range of motion and more mobility and flexibility. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Discomfort is not a bad thing. In fact, we really want to learn how to be comfortable with the discomfort.
Yep.
That's a very important goal here. So good
Yeah.
work, and thanks for doing
Thank
that
you.
for everybody to see.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it very much. And just in closing, is there anything that you want to leave with the audience? Like, where can they find out more about yourself or your work? Where would you point them?
Sure. Before I give the plug for myself, I would just encourage everybody to, you know, what I would want to say is that, like, as we saw through today's conversation, is these beliefs of ourselves, this harshness, this very critical way of treating ourselves it's an adaptation. And we oftentimes get this belief that we're broken or we're damaged or there's something wrong with us. And that's not the case. What happens is we go through things and we adapt to them in the only ways that are available to us. And we are so much more than the things that happen to us.
Mhm.
And we can learn how to do things differently. And all that wisdom that knows how to do it, it's inside of each and every one of us. All that we need to do is recover it. So when I asked you earlier, what are you recovering? You told me, I'm recovering my authentic self. I'm recovering
Mhm.
my emotions. I'm recovering the wisdom that knows how to heal, that knows how to be whole, that knows how to thrive in this world. And that's all that I do is I help you find that. All that information's inside of you. And I think that's what good therapy should do is
Mhm.
lead you back to yourself where you have all the answers.
Yeah.
So that's what I really encourage everybody to do is try and find that wisdom inside of yourself. That's where it is. It's not out there, it's inside of you.
Mhm.
In terms of where you can find me, my website's great, psychedelic-integration.net. You can contact me through there. I do consultations. I do no obligation sessions, all the things. You can follow me on social media, Instagram, Psyche Integration. Yeah, those are the places right there.
Appreciate it. And I'll put those in the show notes as well. Julian, thank you for the time, the experience, and the attention there. I am going to be thinking about this and putting this into practice. It was incredible.
Yeah, take a moment and thank yourself too, because
Yes.
you're showing up for you, you're showing up for your kids, you're showing up for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, that idea of doing service for others is really important, and it can be very dangerous too.
Yes. Yep.
We do service for others by doing service for ourselves.
Absolutely. Yep.
Showing up for ourselves first is most important. So you doing this, man, really, really take a moment, either, when we get off the call or whenever, and just really thank yourself because you're showing up for yourself in very, very constructive ways. So good work,
Will do.
Kyle. You're doing
Will do.
great.
Thank you. Thank you for spending your time here. If this conversation was helpful, you can follow More Than Capable wherever you listen to podcasts. I also share longer form writing on the More Than Capable Substack, exploring these ideas in further depth. You can follow the Substack by going to morethancapable.life. That's morethancapable.life. If this conversation mattered to you, pass it on. That's how this community grows. Until next time, keep showing up